medicine. I think that Trump should just let the doctors do their thing, let the health officials do their thing. I think by and large, Trump should probably stay away from the microphone when these nuanced topics that he is not an expert in come up, because then what happens is the media latches on to some of this stuff that he says, and they're like, well, got him. It's like, let the doctors do what the doctors do. Let your health experts that you have hired to study this be the public voices on this. That way you have the most responsible commentary coming out of the administration. That is one place where I'll say they could do and he could do individually a better job. But studying this, looking into this, exploring why these rates are just exponentially growing is the right thing to do, John.
I think you're an expert when you said, I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
That's the right answer. Why aren't we open to things? We've had no cholesterol, good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, all kinds of crazy stuff I've seen in the last 20, 30, 40 years. So let's be open.
Well, here's the thing.
If you think it's safe and you go ahead and take 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or you push that limit that's on the side for your recommendations, you're obviously you're taking a risk is what we're saying. That's all. Consider it.
That's it. And that's what's going on right now. So, I think about this too from the standpoint of the phrase settled science. I heard this a lot yesterday in some local TV broadcasts. Well, it's settled science that Tylenol is safe during pregnancy. Science cannot ever be settled. I mean, that's the idea of science. It's always evolving. There's always new information. That was one of those lines that was used extensively during COVID, the settled science. It's an oxymoron. There can't be settled science. Theoretically, anytime you get new data, new information, it's no longer settled. So, there was a lot of commentary on this yesterday. RFK, President Trump, the guy to me that should be the spokesman for all of this is Marty McCarry. You may recall him. He used to appear quite frequently on various television shows talking during the COVID years about what's going on with that vaccine, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he is now with the administration, and here's what he had to say in part yesterday.
Today, the FDA is filing a Federal Register notice to change the label on an exciting treatment called prescription leucovorin so that it can be available to children with autism. Autism may also be due to an autoimmune reaction to a folate receptor on the brain, not allowing that important vitamin to get into the brain cells. It's a fairly established, mature pathway. Again, we have a duty to let doctors and the public know we are going to change the label to make it available. Hundreds of thousands of kids, in my opinion, will benefit. One study found that with kids with autism and chronic folate deficiency, 2/3 of kids with autism symptoms had improvement, and some marked improvement.
Okay, so that was Marty McCarry. I mean, this guy has spent his entire life doing this. He's a Harvard guy. He now is, of course, with the Trump administration. Leave this to Marty McCarry. He actually got in on a bipartisan basis as the 27th Commissioner of Food and Drugs. He is well respected. He has a great background. We don't need Trump going up to the podium and being like, yeah, the Amish don't have any autism. It's a miracle. Like, there may be something there. I don't know. Trump ain't a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Most of us are not doctors. Let's leave this one, of all the things that Trump leaves to somebody else, let's leave this one to the experts, because if not, what then happens is that Trump says something, the media hyperventilates on that, and then they miss the good stuff that's actually being said by the people Trump is put in position to hire and to get to the bottom of what may be going on. That's exactly the kind of stuff that we need to be doing, not listening to Trump pontificate about autism at the podium. Nathan's in Kansas City. What's up, Nathan?
Hey, Pete. I listen to you regularly, and I wanted to chip in today, talk about the autism issue.
Yep, go ahead, my man. I got a minute for you. What's happening?
That's right. Yeah. So, I know the president talked about the Tylenol and stuff, but people are, because I have my oldest son is autistic, and it's been pretty hard on us. We did everything we could. We went everywhere we could go, but we never been able to get anybody to suggest anything to us other than ABA, like therapy, which has been done for years and never brought any help to us. So, for a parent who has an autistic kid, this is great for us, because at least people need to stop focusing on the Tylenol things and kind of see that there's some hope, there's something that they at least brought in that could help us, in this process, and that's what I posted on my Facebook yesterday. I was like, I told people, hey, I'm a conservative Republican, but this is not about politics. This is just about a solution. At least they're talking about it, they're doing something about it. It may not be it may not be perfect, but it's something that
Yes.
I guess we can rely on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate you checking in, my man. That's right. They're talking about it, doing something about it, exploring it, investigating it, studying it. Not just saying, nothing to see here. Keep going on with your day. That ain't fair. More coming up, news in a minute.
Hey, it's Kevin Kietzman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Did you see this story? This dude on the South Plaza, he tried to break in to the New York butcher shop at about 3 a.m. on Sunday morning. Channel 9 wrote about this yesterday. And the guy doesn't realize that they've got, glass. They've got shatterproof safety glass at their building. So there's surveillance video of this guy throwing a brick 3 times at the front of the shop, and the glass doesn't break. And he's sitting there looking all confused when his brick is breaking off and bouncing off of the glass. What's going on here, John?
That's one of those cheap old Antifa bricks left from the Summer of Love down there, right? It's kind of been sitting out in the weather.
Yeah.
Gotten dry and brittle.
Oh, man. It's like me when I was doing yard work. I used some old dirt I had in a bag that was half open. I'm like, man, this dirt's no good. I got to go get new dirt. Same thing. You use old bricks, man. That's what happens to you.
You know?
Jeez. So the New York butcher shop shared his video of this guy trying to break into his shop, and the dude can't break in because, well, he's got shatterproof safety glass, which is sad that you have to basically think about that when you've got a business on the plaza these days, but that's the world that we find ourselves in. So I'm glad that this thug was not able to break in to the New York butcher shop there off the plaza. But at the same time, it's like, man, what are we doing when this guy's like, yep, that's why I've got it there. So guys like this can't take an old brick and toss it at my window and try to break in and steal from my business. It's sad they have to do that. But at the same time, it's the reality of the situation here in Kansas City. Now, speaking of that reality, I saw this from our good friend Sean Smith, Jackson County legislator. He had this story yesterday that he is offering up the Jackson County Jail as a temporary facility for Kansas City. Now, that's awfully nice of him, and this is a no-brainer to me.
Such a nice man.
But apparently, it's been put on hold. So an offer of the current Jackson County Jail as a temporary facility for Kansas City has been put on hold. Why? Well, yesterday, legislator Sean Smith offered the resolution during the legislature's meeting. Instead, Chairman Duron McGee referred the offer to the Justice and Law Committee for further consideration. So Jackson County's current jail is in downtown KCMO, but it won't be next year. The county is building, of course, this new jail north of I-70. So Sean Smith is like, hey, KCMO doesn't have a jail. They haven't had a jail in more than a decade. We learned from Fox 4 over the weekend that they're probably not going to start construction on the new Kansas City jail until 2027, which means what? We might be up to 4 years out from having a jail in this town after we haven't had one for over a decade now. Only the most incompetent of incompetent in a major American city could go a decade and a half without a jail. And that's what Kansas City could be on the verge of doing here. So Sean Smith is saying, hey, once we move out of our current jail site, which is totally full in downtown KCMO, and we move out to this new complex north of I-70, why not allow Kansas City, which doesn't have a jail, to use our old jail? Because the inmates from the current jail could be moved to the new one in Jackson County as soon as February. That gives Kansas City a spot to use, especially ahead of the World Cup next summer when it's going to be very busy. Right now, because the city doesn't have a jail, municipal suspects for crimes like domestic violence are sent out to Vernon County, 90 minutes away, or Johnson County, Missouri, an hour away. Why not be good partners here and say, yeah, sure, the guys at KCMO can use our jail cell. John, this seems like a very smart, reasonable, and sophisticated approach with the taxpayer dollars. Why not do this?
Yeah, maybe some Kansas officials could put together a Star Bonds district for us in the spirit of cooperation.
That would be nice. I'll take them up on that. But now you've got the chairman being like, well, this has to go to committee first. It's like, because Kansas City cannot play nice with Jackson County and vice versa, the entire region is worse off for it. We waste money. We waste the time of law enforcement who has to somehow get these city violators down to Vernon County, out to Johnson County. We've got that part of this. That's a major problem as well. And it's like, guys, just make this easy. For once in your lives, can you make this easy in Jackson County and Kansas City? Say to Kansas City, take our jail space for now, do with it what you want, take it off our hands, use it for criminals, and we're going out to our new facility north of I-70. Don't make this any more difficult than it needs to be, for crying out loud. But it's like they just can't help themselves. It's like you get into politics and you try to figure out how to make everything as difficult and as complicated and as stupid as you possibly can. And that's what it looks like is at least in part going on here. It's a great thought from Sean Smith to say, Kansas City, when we move out of our jail space next year, you guys can have it. But now the rest of the legislature, or at least the chairman, Deron McGee, who really desperately wants to replace Frank White. And I don't know if that's playing a role in this, but this guy, Deron McGee, he wants to be the county executive. He wants to be the next Frank White. And Frank White's recall is 1 week from today in Jackson County. So I don't know if there's a political game that he's playing here, but if he is, shame on him. Don't refer this to committee. Help out Kansas City. Be a good partner for the biggest city in your county. And let's save some taxpayer money while we do it. It feels like a no-brainer to me. Now, also on the law enforcement front, yesterday, the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department released video of their new blue light car feature on Facebook. So these new car features are intended to increase visibility and deter criminal activity. So it's going to encourage police presence. What you see in the video posted on Facebook, the blue lights on the car pictured are basically just this steady burning, and they do not signify an emergency. And I'm all about this. It's basically a way to say, hey, we've got some police in the area. I see no downside to it. If that triggers you, if that upsets you, that there's a cop in your area, well, the problem is you, not the police.
I was thinking maybe it could play music. Like the ice cream man plays music when he comes around. If you want to know he's around, play the Miami Vice theme or
How about the cops theme?
Yeah.
I would love that.
Bad boys. What you going to do?
Give me some Bad Boys, Mark, going into the break, all right? I would love that. That would be fantastic.
Inner Circle, Bad Boys.
I love that. That reminds me of being 5 or 6 years old because cops would come on after the local news. My parents would be watching in the mid-'90s. And then cops would show up. And, man, I would remember watching like 5 minutes of Cops at like 6, 7 years old. And I was like, well, don't want to end up like those guys.
They filmed a lot of those in Kansas City.
Yeah, there were some great ones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There was a woman in Kansas City, Kansas who had an abusive husband. But you see her out on the street, and she's out in front of her house, and she's just waving her hand, signaling the cops to come over. And she's tied this drunk old dude up with a phone cord. Got him hogtied. And she's like, "Would you pick him up and get him out of here?"
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, you'll have to. That's entertainment. Hours of entertainment.
Oh,
for you
man.
on YouTube,
I know
brother.
what I'm watching on YouTube later today. Mm-hmm. I see it here that there were episodes filmed in Kansas City in 97 and 99. I was watching it earlier than that. I'm thinking like 94, 95 was my heyday for watching Cops. But either way, that's just tremendous work. Yeah, play the Cops theme song while the cop with the blue light is rolling through parts of town. That would be fantastic.
I like it.
I mean, that's just a no-brainer. Great idea, John. You should be on the Board of Police Commissioners. That's what we need.
Right.
All right?
I'll get on there. I'll try to get on there.
When the next seat is up, I'm going to ask Quentin Lucas on
Get hold of
Thursday.
Nathan here.
Yes, if he can nominate you to be a fellow board member on the Kansas City, Missouri Board of Police Commissioners.
Next time you have Brad Lemon on, maybe I'll get a buzz. Help me out.
Our 6 at 6 is coming up on KCMO. Top 6 stories in the 6 a.m. hour next.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Sheriff John Brown come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do? Yeah, bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
6:50 on a Tuesday morning. Great to have you here on KCMO 95.7 FM. It is that time of the morning.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Well, the top story this morning, and this is just my own personal top story. 1 week from today, the countdown is on for Jackson County Executive Frank White's recall election, John.
You want to get your orders into the caterer, right? The barbecue places will have those pop-up tents in the parking lot where you just pick it up in bulk. It's kind of like Memorial Day, 4th of July, so make sure you get those orders in.
Oh, man, there are going to be some watch parties as well, I think, that night, right? All over Kansas City and Jackson County. There's no doubt about it. 1 week from today, the countdown is on to Frank White's recall election in Jackson County, Missouri. So we'll get back to all that in the days to come, but man, we'll have to see how that one plays out. I think Frank is toast, but apparently he's got some confidence as he goes around town. We'll see.
Number 2.
Next up in our 6 at 6, a tragedy out of Olathe. Olivia Copeland, the daughter of late Olathe Mayor Michael Copeland, was killed over the weekend when she fell from a cliffside in Idaho Springs, Colorado. This was on Saturday. Olivia Copeland from Fort Collins was 26 years old. She went to Olathe Northwest, graduated from Kansas State, moved out to Colorado, and the police say that Olivia, who was an employee of AVA Rafting and Zipline, was reportedly guiding a group of customers, and this tragedy occurred when she fell from a cliffside in Idaho Springs, Colorado. Michael Copeland, the late Olathe mayor, passed away a few years ago, and now his daughter is joining him. The statement from the family reads in part as follows: Olivia was a vibrant, adventurous, and deeply loved young woman whose light and kindness touched all who knew her. Our family is still in shock, and we are struggling to comprehend this sudden loss, especially so soon after the unexpected passing of her father, Olathe's former mayor Michael Copeland, in 2020. Even in the midst of this sorrow, we cling to the hope we have in Jesus Christ and trust that Olivia is now safely in his arms. We ask for grace as we grieve and seek understanding. We are profoundly grateful for the outpouring of love and support from friends, neighbors, and our community. And think about this, too. The current mayor, John Bacon, lost his son, Brett, just a few weeks ago. We highlighted that story as Brett, we found out later, was a big fan of this show. And now the former Olathe mayor, who died in 2020, loses a daughter over the weekend at the age of 26. So our prayers and thoughts are definitely with the Copeland family at this time.
Number 3.
In our 6 at 6, this news, we've got the 4 soldiers' names who were killed in a Black Hawk helicopter crash in Washington State. They were identified by the Army. One of them is a Missouri native. Andrew Cully is his name, from Sparta, Missouri. He was 35 years old. The Army releasing the names of 4 soldiers killed last week when a military helicopter they were on crashed near Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State. They were part of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, an elite team that does nighttime missions. And their Black Hawk helicopter crashed last Wednesday at about 9 p.m. And we now know there was a Missouri native involved in that. His name, Andrew Cully, at 35 years old. Also, Andrew Krause, 39, from Sanibel, Florida. Donovan Scott, 25, from Tacoma, Washington. And Jadalyn Good, 23, from Mount Vernon, Washington.
Number 4.
Next up in the 6 at 6 here on KCMO, in Overland Park. An apartment fire leaves 6 adults and 2 dogs without a home. Multiple people are without a place to sleep after their apartment suffered severe smoke damage. Crews from the Overland Park and Lenexa fire departments responded to reports of fire just before 3 a.m. this morning at the Aspen Lodge Apartments. It's about 81st and Schweitzer. Firefighters arrived to find a first-floor unit of the 2-story building on fire. No one was hurt, but 6 adults and 2 dogs from 4 units are displaced and receiving assistance from the Red Cross. The cause for this fire is currently under investigation.
Number 5.
Well, we've got an update on the Kansas City Chiefs and the wide receiving core, which is an absolute mess right now. Andy Reid saying yesterday that Xavier Worthy just wasn't ready to go. That's why he did not play in the Week 3 game against the New York Giants. So when do we think Xavier Worthy's coming back? What would the over-under be on that return, Mark, if you were to place a bet on that?
I would have probably guessed when the Lions come to town.
What is that, couple of weeks from now?
Couple of weeks, yeah.
Okay.
Like week 5, week 6.
All right. John, you got a number on that?
I think they'll buoy it till the bye week.
Okay. Which is what, mid-October this year?
What, week 8-ish, 9? Is it 8 or 9?
Okay, so you think he's going to miss half the season. Oh, boy. Okay.
It'll be touch and go, and I think that's what'll be the end result.
Okay. All right. Well, in the meantime, one of the rookies that they're hoping to see break out, Jalen Royals, he's still dealing with knee tendonitis. Progressed to full practice participation last week, but did not make his NFL debut against the Giants. He traveled with the team, but did not play on Sunday night. So they're hopeful maybe we'll see Jalen Royals. Could we see him against Baltimore this weekend? That would be nice. I wouldn't mind that, but we'll have to wait and see. And then Rashee Rice, who's, of course, suspended for 6 games for violating the NFL's conduct policy. He can return to the practice facility this week, but he cannot practice or be on the field. So that's where it's at right now for Rashee Rice. He will miss 3 more games due to that suspension. And last up,
Number 6.
the Royals are playing out the string. They are officially eliminated from the playoffs, but they have 1 week left until the season is over. And they start that tonight. 3 games set in Los Angeles against the Angels. And then it's a 3-game set against the Oakland Athletics. Boy, is there a more depressing place to end your season than where are they playing? Sacramento, California, against the Oakland A's? Holy cow. That is going to be a depressing final 3 games. Not going to the playoffs and playing in a minor league ballpark in Sacramento. Jeez. Or as a former radio host I used to listen to call it Sacra Tomato. It's what he used to call Sacramento. So the Royals play out the string. It all starts tonight in L.A. Coming up, new polling data that in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk may somewhat surprise some of you, but it really shouldn't. We have those details next. I saw a lot of people Sunday afternoon and yesterday saying that Charlie Kirk's memorial service locked up the midterms for the Republican Party. And I just don't believe that. I would love for that to be true. Obviously, I want that to be true. And I speak that and I say that and I admit that from a very biased perspective. But I don't want to let the emotions of Sunday cloud my vision of what's potentially to come. Because as I noted yesterday, our brain power is that of an ant these days. We don't have any memory, and I speak for all of us when I say that. Culturally right now and socially right now, we just don't have it. Yesterday feels like a week ago feels like a month ago, and a month ago in this news cycle feels like a year ago. That's the world that we find ourselves in. So yes, I would love it if Sunday was literally and figuratively a come to Jesus moment for tens of millions of Americans who are now working to see the light, putting their faith first and foremost in their lives, and that is leading them, politically speaking, to a more conservative worldview. I believe that would be tremendous for the country. But it's never that easy. And I don't think it's going to be that easy. And while I would love to be wrong about that, the reality is, as much as the last couple of weeks may have been eye-opening for a lot of people who either were not really all that politically engaged, who now know about Charlie Kirk and understand what his message was and what his mission was, and they're hopefully seeing some of the light. Maybe there are people who are politically agnostic or maybe, more middle of the road who may have a more right-of-center conservative worldview after the last couple of weeks. I would love for that to be the case as well. But there's no real polling that I've seen around that you can latch onto. And you can't do this stuff and come to these conclusions just based off feelings that you have. But there was this yesterday, and it came courtesy of CNN, which was sharing some polling that was done in the last couple of weeks from the Washington Post. And if you are looking for a reason to be sitting here in late September, about 13 and a half months out from these midterm elections, well, one thing you do have to be encouraged by is some of the polling from the Washington Post. If you are on the right side of the political aisle, this is Henry Enton, he's entertaining over there on CNN. He does a great job with the delivery, just rolling it out and saying to the Democrats on CNN, he's making this case on CNN, that you guys might be in more trouble than you care to admit.
What are we seeing? Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime, a big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans? Look at that, lead by 22 points. So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22. The lead, again, expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all 3 issues.
What's the reason that you...
By the way, this guy's, he's an entertainer out there, man. He's outstanding. Guy could do a talk show if he wanted to. Henry Enton, CNN, continuing on here.
We're finding so far that's driving this.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime. The bottom line is, when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices, because at this particular point, even if Republicans, or even if The public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing. They ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing. And it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party at this particular point. Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still
And again, this isn't as Donald Trump came into office. These are numbers from this month.
These are numbers from September of 2025. We still find that the Republicans leading on all three of these issues. And of course, this economy will be the key. If Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to likely win on the economy. At this particular point among independents, you see that 1-point lead for Republicans. And overall, at least according to the Washington Post, they hold a 7-point lead on the economy overall.
So that was Henry Enton on CNN yesterday. And the polling clearly shows that on the major issues right now, generic Republicans lead on the ballot over generic Democrats. And 13 months out of, a midterm, that's a big deal. That's great news if you are someone who wants to see the Republicans hold the House and hold the Senate. That's outstanding. But it's going to come down to this one thing. It will come down to that economic number. And right now, Republicans are +7 there. They're +1 with independents. On the immigration issue, they're up double digits. On the crime issue, they're up 22 points. Why do you think Trump is leaning so much into the crime issue right now? Whether it's Washington, D.C., whether it's his beef with Chicago or California. Now, of course, he's going to Memphis. We'll take you here in Kansas City. I won't speak for Mayor Q, but maybe I will. We'll take you here in KC. All right? Send the boys over this way when you're done in Memphis there, Mr. President, please.
We got barbecue, too.
Yeah.
Such a nice man.
We'll gladly take you. But he's doing it because it's a political winner. Right? Because if he goes into some of these cities with the National Guard and they see a major reduction in crime, and they will see a reduction in crime, there's no doubt in my mind, you will get bad actors off the streets. You will at least temporarily solve the crime issue. There will be people who are like, wow, this actually works. Having more law enforcement around is a good thing.
Talk about a bombshell.
Who would have ever seen that coming? I can't believe it. So, yes, it's the right thing to do because it's saving lives and it's getting criminals off the streets. But it also is a major political winner. And of those three issues, economy, immigration, crime, it's right now the biggest winner for the Republican Party. That's why they're doubling down on it. Don't kid yourself. I do believe they want to do right by the people in these cities, even if they didn't vote for them. But it's just as much politics. You got to be fair about it here. But that economic number is going to be the telltale sign. If people start to feel better about their economic situation in the next 12 months, then the people in charge, the party in power, will get rewarded. If things don't improve, if we enter this phase of potential stagflation, where you can't get the inflation number further down towards 2%, where the labor market weakens a little bit more, then it's not going to much matter about the other stuff, even if you have major advantages on things like immigration and crime. And to tie it back to Sunday, I would love for that expression of faith to be an eye-opening day for tens of millions of Americans. I want that to be the turning point, no pun intended, as it's been dubbed, for America on major cultural issues and faith issues. I want that to happen. I just don't know if in a world where the news cycle moves so quickly and we move on too quickly, if that can truly be the case. Coming up next, Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air tonight. Wait, stop.
Nobody cares.
Stop. I haven't even gotten to the story yet, okay? What are some of his big allies in the political arena saying after it was announced that Kimmel's coming back tonight? They are twisting themselves into a pretzel. We have some examples next.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
As always, well done there by Bill O'Reilly on the morning update. Thanks for joining us on a rainy Tuesday morning across Kansas City on KCMO. So Jimmy Kimmel is back in the saddle tonight on ABC. So much for the fascist dictator taking him off the air. I guess that's a thing of the past, huh? That one didn't come to fruition, did it, John?
Well, it's amazing how people pay attention to the original statement that he was suspended indefinitely, so that suggested he might come back.
Yep, and that's exactly what Disney announced yesterday. They said here, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It's a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. Now, they weren't insensitive or ill-timed. I mean, I guess they were, but they were also just factually inaccurate. When Kimmel comes on the air Monday and says that this guy's a MAGA guy, that was the insinuation, which there was no basis in truth for. Goes on to say here, we've spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy. And after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. So much for Trump and the FCC are going to get Jimmy Kimmel fired, and they're telling ABC and Disney what to do. So much for that, huh? I guess we have to put that one back in the old wallet till next time. They can break that card out, John?
Of course, there was a letter signed by a bunch of goobers in Hollywood, too, and I'm sure they all think they did something.
I know. 400 celebrities I saw. I didn't even know there were 400 celebrities out there.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
I don't think it does, man, because I'm like, 400 people in Hollywood that are celebrities?
Well, they got all the key grips, so, that's a couple hundred.
Oh, man. So this was last night. So, of course, last night people are celebrating, hey, Jimmy Kimmel's coming back. Woo! And I know like 6 of you will be watching, but not in John Anthony's household. That's the old line that he uses.
That's right. Not at my house.
No way. Jamie Raskin out of Maryland goes on MSNBC and he says this.
That Jimmy Kimmel will be returning to TV tomorrow night. What do you think?
Well, it's great news. Obviously, the ABC heard from millions and millions of people out there who do not want to accept government-dictated censorship of their late-night talk show host. And so the free speech battle's not over. Obviously, Donald Trump still thinks he's got the power to anoint and appoint comedians in the country in private media broadcasts, but at least ABC is on the right side now, and he's got his employer with him as well as so much of the public.
Imagine coming to the conclusion that this was millions of Americans reaching out to Disney and saying, we don't want government-dictated censorship. ABC's statement, or I should say Walt Disney's statement, is very clear. They take responsibility for suspending production to avoid inflaming a tense situation. They decided to return the show tonight. They didn't say, it was great to hear from all you guys out there over the last few days, and boy, we couldn't do it without you, and you opened up our eyes.
All the key grips and all the actors.
No, that is not what Walt Disney said in this statement. And Jamie Raskin's coming out with this absurdity of, yeah, the people spoke on this one. They got ABC and Kimmel's back here. Oh, my gosh, man. Frank's in Overland Park. Frank, knock some sense into me here.
I don't know, Pete. I'm sitting here, I invest people's money for a living. I'm going, what about the shareholders? What about the shareholders? Is anyone paying attention to what Disney stock is doing? It's down right now. It's 40% down from, I believe, 3 years ago, three and a half years ago, something like that. That's a big drop. Now, Sinclair stock is down also, but it's been running along at about the same pace for the last 3 years at about its same price. So my question to Disney shareholders is, when are you guys going to get after the board of directors of Disney and say enough is enough?
That's a great question, Frank. Thank you, my man. Well, here's the thing, and you mentioned Sinclair. Sinclair, which owns 30-some-odd ABC stations around the country, they're not going back to Kimmel. They put out a statement yesterday saying that they are preempting Kimmel until further notice. So this decision may not even be fully done yet. Kimmel returns tonight, but I don't know how long he's going to be there for. And I don't much care. I mean, I don't root for anyone to lose their job. But I don't think this story's over. If Sinclair just says we're done with Kimmel, they have every right to do that. They don't have to carry the show. ABC may be forced into another decision. Interestingly, Nexstar, which everyone thought was like making the move on Kimmel because they want to get this merger approved with this company, Tegna, they haven't said a peep yet as to what they're going to do about Kimmel. But Sinclair is like, we're done. We're not doing this. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But, Mark will tune in tonight and watch Kimmel for us. Coming up next, on one side of our state line, a school district is under fire. Why? We'll get to it on KCMO.
KCMO, Kansas City's place to talk. On 95.7 FM and 710 AM. A Cumulus media station.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson Show, a stellar lineup for you. Kayleigh McEnany, our Fox News colleague, will be here. The great Douglas Murray will be here as well. Coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
I love when two of our worlds collide. That's what happened over the last few days here on KCMO Talk Radio. So our good friend Patrick Tuohy with the Show Me Institute, they focus on the Missouri side. But Patrick wrote an opinion piece in the Kansas City Star. And he basically wrote about Blue Valley schools and how they're spending more money and they're more flush with cash than ever before. And the reality is the education standards have gone down. The student scores have not been as good, despite the fact that they are taking in more money than ever before. And that's obviously something that our friends at the Kansas Policy Institute have been focused on for a long time. So Tuohy writes this piece in the Kansas City Star. The headline, Blue Valley schools are flush with cash. Why are academics slipping? The Blue Valley superintendent responds to Patrick Tuohy in an email to Blue Valley families. And here to break it all down is Dave Trobert with the Kansas Policy Institute. Dave, good morning. I know you've got a big smile on your face seeing this back and forth and knowing that you're not at the center of it this time.
Well, good morning, Pete. Actually, you're right. There's a smile on my face, but not for that reason. I'm going to start with the good news. We're starting to see more school districts, administrators, the superintendents admitting, okay, yeah, we have a problem. They're listening to their community, and they're hearing that parents are not happy with the product being produced. Certainly some kids do well. But overall, every district has a lot of academic challenges. So some are doing it, but not in Johnson County. Blue Valley, the way that the Superintendent Chapman responded was to, you correctly stated Patrick's premise, and she gave false impressions of high achievement. And she basically said, we still don't have enough money. And neither are true. So, for example, and this is a standard tactic. They said, according to U.S. News and World Report, Blue Valley is among the 7 best high schools in Kansas, and that is what U.S. News and World Report said. But she didn't say that according to U.S. News and World Report, less than half of high school students in Blue Valley are college ready.
Wow.
Which is more important? We have a high ranking because we're not as bad as others, or what do we actually achieve?
It's the tallest midget argument they're making there. I mean, that's what that is right there. Well, we're taking all your money and we may be doing worse academically with your kids, but at least we're better than fill in the blank school district in Garden or Dodge or Wichita or wherever else. I mean, that doesn't mean anything, Dave. I mean, parents don't care about that.
No, they don't. And then she proceeds to give false information about their funding. The implication, I mean, you notice the same is true with funding as it was with achievement. She didn't address any specifics. She gave the magician's trick of deflection. Look over here so you don't see what this hand is doing. She talked about, other districts get a lot more state and federal funding. Well, why is that? Mm-hmm. Because Blue Valley is flush with local property tax. It's the wealthiest district in the state. Yeah, the state makes up funding for districts that are property poor. So, but it doesn't mean that Blue Valley has less to operate on. They're budgeting to spend almost $21,000 a student this year. She didn't mention that. She said, because Patrick pointed out the reserves, she said, we only have about $16,000 in unencumbered reserves.
$16 million,
that's a flat out, that's a flat out lie according to their own budget. They try to make things up to excuse, because here's the ugly truth about a lot of school districts. The system is set up to make the system look good. The primary focus is not to improve student outcomes. They'd like to see it happen, of course, but not if it means they have to change their own behaviors.
That is so well said. Dave Trobert with the Kansas Policy Institute is here on KCMO. And I also found it interesting that at no point did the Blue Valley superintendent, and her name is Jillian Chapman, at no point in her email to parents responding to Patrick Tuohy's opinion piece in the Kansas City Star did she basically say his information on student achievement was inaccurate. It was more about playing the shell game with the money and how the money's being spent and what the money's there for and what they're doing with the money. She never actually said anything about the fact that their ACT scores by graduation year are down and have been trending down for the last decade. Nothing about that. Just let's play a shell game with the money. Dave, what do you make of that and how do you interpret that?
Well, that's pretty standard. Patrick's premise was you've got a lot of money, the budgets are growing, why aren't we seeing the outcomes? Well, so for example, a legitimate question would be, you have an 18% enrollment over the last 20 years. You have a 49% increase in managers and a 33% increase in other non-teachers. So, yeah, you've got plenty of opportunities in addition to tens of millions in the bank left over from prior years. You have opportunities. What are the barriers holding those other kids back? I mean, you look at the state assessment, more than 40% of the students in Blue Valley are not proficient. What are the barriers holding those kids back? How do you allocate the budget, reallocate the funds to overcome those barriers? That's the role of the Board of Education. Not to rubber stamp things, not to be cheerleaders. It's to see that management has a plan to accomplish very specific goals. She said in her response that we have academic goals in our strategic plan. They do not. They have platitudes. They do not have anything that says we're going to go from 40% college ready to 50% college ready in this specific period of time, or proficient in reading and math. They don't have goals. That's what systems do. Systems don't want to set goals because then they can be held accountable to them. So we have platitudes instead.
Give me that number. You said 18% enrollment increase in what, the last 10 years?
20
in the last 20 years. And then a 49% increase in administrative roles?
Yep.
And then what was the other one?
33% in other non-teachers. So managers aren't teachers.
Yeah.
All the other employees except teachers, they're up 33%.
Wow. I mean, talk about spending money outside of the classroom instead of where it needs to be, which is to the great teachers that are doing a really, really difficult job every single day. And they're not... I've always said I'm on the side of teachers here. They're not getting appreciated. They're not getting rewarded here in enough of this because you have what's turned into a jobs program at the administrative level for adults instead of worrying about and focusing on the teachers in the classrooms.
Yeah, and again, that's the opposite of what's happening. It's in a growing number of mostly smaller districts that we're working with, districts that have invited us to come in and say, look, we have a problem. Can you help us get started here? Where do we look? What's the process? How do we go about putting a real strategic plan together? And we're working it, and we're engaging communities, and everybody's the teachers are enthusiastic, the kids love it, the parents are encouraged, and so I mean these things can happen, and that's what must happen in order to address this really serious achievement crisis we have in Kansas.
That is well said. Dave Traubert, Kansas Policy Institute, doing outstanding work on KCMO. They wrote about this at the Sentinel, sentinelksmo.org. Dave, keep up the great work. I'm going to share some of that data from the show just a few minutes ago, and we will talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Pete. Have a good one.
Well done. Dave Traubert on 95.7 FM. And we'll have Patrick Tuohy on the show tomorrow to get his response to Blue Valley, who's now all upset with him. That tells me when they respond to you that quickly, it tells me you are right over the target. Coming up, we will have your chance at Jordan Davis tickets. He is playing at Cable Dahmer Arena coming up on Friday. That is at 8:15. And your first chance today at $1,000 at 8:34 this morning, a text-to-win keyword for both of those contests in the 8 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up, Turning Point USA had its first event last night in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And it was disgraceful to see some of the local reaction from this community on that event. And it's exactly the kind of thing and kind of commentary that ended up getting Charlie killed. We'll explain and tell you who said what next on KCMO.
from the nation's heartland. It's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Last night, Turning Point USA had its first event in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And it was hosted by Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire. His show used to be weeknights here on KCMO Talk Radio, going back a couple of years. And he was at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. This was their first event since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And you would think that people would want to turn down the temperature, right? I mean, Charlie Kirk was assassinated because he went to college campuses and he tried to do what we supposedly are supposed to encourage people to do. And that is engage and talk and use our words and speak to people who disagree with us. Instead, already, one event in, it's not happening. There are people who are fanning the flames of hatred and sowing division up there in the Twin Cities. Like this. This comes from a woman who is proudly serving Ward 2 up in Minneapolis in a post that went viral on social media last night. She just goes by the name Robin. That's literally, I guess it's kind of like the artist. And it's not her, by the way. It's not that Robin. But it's this woman named Robin who calls herself a black independent socialist, proudly serving Minneapolis Ward 2. So she is a city representative up there in the Twin Cities. And she posted last night on social media, tonight, this University of Minnesota Twin Cities, is hosting an event with Turning Point USA. This is an absurd decision by the university administration, and it threatens the safety of students and our community as a whole. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Speech does not threaten anybody. I thought we were supposed to come to an agreement on this over the last couple of weeks. Speech is not a threat to you. Words cannot hurt you. Someone listening to this kind of rhetoric who's mentally deranged and buys into this kind of rhetoric and then commits an act of violence is the one who is committing violence, not words that you don't like. I just don't know how we move on when we're literally less than 2 weeks removed. We're 24 hours out of Charlie Kirk's memorial service. And you've got people in positions of power. This is not some online troll. This is a person who's a city council member up in the Twin Cities saying that Turning Point USA having an event threatens the safety of students and the community. And to be so dense, and that's me being nice in honor of Charlie, to be so dense in the wake of the last couple of weeks and suggest that somebody showing up somewhere and saying words that you don't like is somehow a threat to the safety of students and the community is so wildly irresponsible. But this is what you get. There's still a large faction of people who believe this, who are going around and promoting this. And it's like, I know we've got to find a level of unification here. I am well aware of that. I just don't know how you do it with this. I don't have the answer. If you can't see a guy get assassinated less than 2 weeks ago who just sat there and had conversations with people he disagreed with, whether you liked what he said or not, if you can't come out of that less than 2 weeks later when the same organization is going to be in your backyard and say, you know what, speech is good. Conversations are positive. We've got to engage with people we disagree with. If you can't come to that conclusion, then I don't know how you get saved. I don't know how you help some of these people. I don't know what you do. And let's just be very clear. Far more of this kind of rhetoric comes from one side of the aisle over the other. Okay? And that is indisputable. You know it and I know it. You can find an example that you want to on either side, but you've got somebody who is an elected representative in Minneapolis saying stuff like this about Turning Point USA showing up yesterday. I mean, that is dangerous. And it's wildly irresponsible. And you're seeing it now, and you're seeing this stuff get platformed to the tune of 1 million views yesterday. John?
Yeah, I think I'd like to make a citizen's arrest. I've been assaulted by Robin.
Yeah,
just Robin.
Literally, I'm like, what's her last name? I can't find her last name.
That was so tough and brave
I
to
know.
be identified, you know.
Well, her cover photo on social media, it says re-elect Robin for Ward 2 City Council.
Is there an I in the name?
Yes, it's
okay.
Robin.
I thought it'd be R-O-B-Y-N or
No,
two N's or
no.
2 B's, 2 R's, R-R-O-B-B-Y-Y-N.
No, it's nothing like that. It's not like the singer-songwriter Robin. It's just R-O-B-I-N.
Well, anyway, I'm fearing for my safety.
I'm too, man.
So.
I'm with you. It's dangerous. But this is what we've got to get rid of. This is what we cannot be encouraging people to think or do. And the fact that some people are going back to that well already is exactly how we got to 2 weeks ago tomorrow in the first place. It's dangerous. And it's got to be called out, and it's got to stop. And the sooner the better. We are approaching the 8 o'clock hour. Catherine Hanaway is going to be here. She is the new Missouri Attorney General. She will visit us in studio here in just a few minutes on KCMO. And then Dr. Christine White will join us. We'll talk to her about the autism announcement yesterday from the White House that is tying a correlation, how deep, not really sure, between Tylenol and autism in pregnant women. So we'll get the update and the latest from her, get the doctor's perspective on this, because what bothered me is it was like in unison yesterday. I was watching this. I saw the press conference with Trump and RFK and some of the doctors there. And they had their press conference saying, hey, we think there could be a tie between pregnant women taking Tylenol and autism. And it was like right away, national media and local media here in Kansas City, they corralled all the doctors up. They put them all on TV and they said, this is dangerous. This is irresponsible. This you can't do. You can't say this. It was like COVID all over again. I'm not a doctor. I don't know the answer, but I am open-minded and I want to hear more from not just one side of the aisle on the experts. I want to hear from supposed experts across the board. That is the responsible thing to do. So we'll do that with Dr. Christine White coming up here on KCMO. We have your chance to win Jordan Davis tickets, Cable Dahmer Arena. That is 15 minutes away. And also your shot at $1,000 at 8:34. Plus, it's Tirade Tuesday. My goodness, the morning's flying by. Get your tirades lined up for 8:35 on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. Well, we are happy to welcome into studio the new Attorney General for the state of Missouri, replacing Andrew Bailey, was recently appointed by Governor Kehoe, and she is Catherine Hanaway joining us on 95.7 FM. Attorney General, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Pete. I'm so thrilled to be here. And I got to say, Mundo in the morning, could there be a better radio name? I mean, that's fantastic.
Well, now you're just trying to mush me up a little bit ahead of our conversation,
No,
but I
I'm
will
not.
take it. I'm happy to take the compliment, but I do appreciate that. So let's just start off. You're here in Kansas City. I know you're going to be at the Board of Police Commissioners meeting. Heather Hall, a former councilwoman, is getting sworn in to the Board of Police Commissioners. When it comes to crime in this state, we just briefly mentioned off the air, we've got 3 cities, Kansas City, St. Louis, and Springfield, in the top 10, top 15 in the country in homicides on a per capita basis. What can you do about that as the Attorney General, and what do you want to do about that?
So there's a lot of things that we can do. First of all, it has always been the office's responsibility to handle criminal appeals. So once a case gets through trial, there's a conviction, so these are really important cases to defend. When they go up on appeal, our office handles those. We'll continue to do a great job on those. What I think that we can do that's new is to provide some manpower to support the local prosecutors and the local U.S. attorney's offices as they ask for it, and they're starting to ask. I mean, that is a relationship of trust that I have to build with those prosecutors, with the U.S. attorneys. You know, nobody wants another agency kind of coming in on their turf. And so unless you have some trust, they're not going to take the help, but we really can be helpful. They can prosecute more cases. And the other thing we're looking at is a new statute that gives us a little more latitude to help with the homeless problem by sort of moving the homeless to where they can get services and out of sort of high traffic areas.
So have you heard yet, or have conversations begun yet with, let's say, Jackson County Prosecutor Melissa Johnson here?
Today's the day. We're going
Okay.
to start that conversation today, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Because you know, and I know, one of the major problems we've had, now she's new, and we're hopeful that she can help get this office on track because it was in a bad place under her predecessor, Gene Peters Baker. But between the prosecutor's office and then also, some of these reckless judges, they're problematic as well.
They are a big problem.
What can be done on that front, if anything?
Well, electing Republican governors helps. It takes a long time to turn over the judges, but now that we've had a pretty consistent, almost, we're going up on almost 10 years of Republican governors, we're starting to get more conservative judges who will hand out better sentences. Working with the prosecutor's key, though, because we saw what happened in St. Louis when we had a really bad prosecutor. And thanks to Andrew Bailey, she got removed from office because she was so bad. I'm really hoping that the prosecutor here in Jackson County is going to be strong and that we're going to have a great relationship.
Have things gotten a bit better on the St. Louis side since her removal?
So much better. We have a prosecutor who's actually doing his job, who can retain people, who works well with the police chief, who works well with the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's back to humming like it should, but the backlog was so huge. So it's a challenge still.
So then how about these judges? I mean, I admit I don't have the answer here. Are they just there till they don't want to be there anymore? Is it really that simple?
Well, there's a retention vote every 6 years, but people just don't get out. They don't care. I think the other thing could be a little help from the legislature. If we had a truth in sentencing law here in Missouri, if you got sentenced to 10 years, you'd serve a high percentage of that time. In the federal system, and that's part of why some of these cases go federal, you actually serve 85% of whatever time you're sentenced to. In Missouri, if you get sentenced to 10 years, you might serve a year. So we need that truth in sentencing law.
So do you feel like you have the bodies to help Kansas City or help the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office if they say, hey, we need your help in Kansas City with issue X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, so I think we do, but I think we can also use more. So I'm really calling on the private sector to help us. We have these great big law firms with lots of associates who are really smart, who never get trials. We're asking those big law firms to lend them to us as sort of trial fellows so they can learn to try cases. That's great for the firms. And having their talent lent to us is great for the state. And I'm getting a positive reaction as I travel around the state. I'm also asking the private sector to maybe kind of help us come and update our technology. No shock. The technology in the office is probably not quite up to the 20th century. I think we're going to skip it and go to the 21st. But there's a lot we could do to be more efficient if we use AI in a smart way.
Catherine Henaway, the new Missouri Attorney General, is here on KCMO. So have you met, by the way, with our mayor, Quentin Lucas, yet, or is today the day for that?
I don't think we have Quentin on the schedule today, but I know him. I've gotten to know him. I was the chair of Hush Blackwell, which has, it's based here in Kansas City. So I've spent quite a bit of time in the Kansas City area.
Okay. All right. So we'll see how that first meeting goes at some point. Let me ask you then, too, about this redistricting that's going on in Missouri. It's a done deal. I know you probably can't say as much as maybe some other people that are in elected office, but what's your assessment of what's going to happen here to Kansas City, which will be a breakup of the 5th Congressional District that Emmanuel Cleaver has held down for the better part of 2 decades?
Yeah, so our Missouri Constitution says 2 things. That the redistricting has to happen after a census. Well, we've had a census. And then it has to be as compact as possible and equal. Well, this map meets that standard. I mean, the state now has been sued 3 times. We're defending those lawsuits. And all the focus has been on Kansas City, but you have to look at the whole map. And when you look at the whole map, there are many more counties that are now contained in a single congressional district. And some of them are large counties like Boone County and St. Charles County, who have previously been divided up a lot. So I think it's a very defensible map, and I look forward to going in and, proving that in court.
What's the timeline on these court cases? Because, I mean, people are going to be voting here in less than a year. So what's the process and timeline on that?
Well, so, they've asked for injunctive relief, which is an emergency remedy, but we still get, a couple of weeks to brief it. So they will move quickly by court standards, but slow by human standards.
That's a good way to put it. All right. So, Catherine Henaway, what is that one thing that Kansas Cityans and Missourians listening right now should learn about you, your priorities, and what you hope your tenure includes as the Attorney General?
I'm going to do everything in my power to reduce the amount of violent crime in this region. That is what I want people to know. My 1, 2, and 3 priorities are reduce crime. I was a prosecutor. I was a U.S. attorney in St. Louis, oversaw more than 4,000 cases, personally tried cases. I think it is the single thing that we can do to improve our state and draw more business here, keep more of our best and brightest in Missouri, and that's going to be what I focus on.
Well, we appreciate you coming into our studios here at KCMO. Come on, tell me these aren't the nicest studios you've seen in the state of Missouri.
They are the nicest studios I've seen in the state of Missouri.
That's all I need to hear. There you go. You're good to go. Thank you, Catherine Hanaway. We appreciate it. The Attorney General for the state of Missouri on KCMO. Dr. Christine White will be here in studio as well, coming up next on 95.7 FM. If you want to win those Jordan Davis tickets, he's at Cable Dahmer Arena this Friday. Text the keyword DIRT. That's DIRT to 913-408-7957. That's DIRT to 913-408-7957.
Stream Mundo in the Morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
We are in studio with a friend of the show. Dr. Christine White is here, Freedom Pediatrics in Kansas City, and we are here to have a conversation about what the president and his team announced yesterday. And that was basically that they believe there to be a potential tie between Tylenol intake of pregnant mothers and autism in children. So, Dr. White, we appreciate you being here. I know right away people hyperventilate when they hear something like this, and certainly they did yesterday. What was your takeaway on the story, the study, and what you heard from the administration?
Well, I think it's always a good idea to look at potential causes of autism or any other condition. We have a huge chronic condition or chronic disease condition or situation with kids. And I think anytime you are open to looking at things, that's a good thing. My main takeaway from this was I was thinking about what am I going to tell parents when they come in today or this week and they're freaking out because maybe they took Tylenol when they were pregnant. And I think I would say to them, you have to be very careful with absolutes. There's very rarely something that is absolutely true or absolutely false. Something is not necessarily all bad or all good. And with everything, you really need to weigh the benefit of using a medical intervention or medication and the risk of using that. And I think that this is the same kind of situation. You can look in the literature, and there's studies that do support an association between the use of Tylenol prenatally and autism or other developmental issues in the offspring. And there is as much data that shows there's no association. So unless there's some brand new study that was not discussed yesterday that we just don't know about, I don't think the science is settled on this. But it's still decent to look at. And if you look at the mechanisms behind how Tylenol works in the body, there are scientific underlying mechanisms that could lead to cellular damage. So there is a possibility that using too much Tylenol during pregnancy could cause harm. So if a mom comes in and says, oh my gosh, I took Tylenol 3 times when I was pregnant, I'm going to say, don't worry about that. If somebody comes in and says, I took it 4 times a day, every day for 6 weeks straight, I'm not going to tell her to worry about it because what good is it going to do to worry now? But I think with everything, there is often a dose-dependent relationship. So there was a physician in the 1500s, and he said, the right dose differentiates a poison from a remedy. So even water can kill you. If you drink too much water, you get water intoxication, your sodium drops, you seize, and you die. Everything can be a poison. And there are times when it is important to consider taking Tylenol even when you're pregnant. If a woman is pregnant and has a very high fever or any fever, that can be a cause of a birth defect or a problem with the fetal development. So people should not just say, oh my gosh, I'm never taking Tylenol again, it's all bad. No, you have to look at, what am I using the Tylenol for? Are there risks of having fever during pregnancy? Yes, that is a tiny little nugget that is developing inside this person. And if they're baking in 102 degrees, that has effects on their heart, on their nervous system. It can lead to birth defects. So you've got to look at that. You also have to look at chronic pain. And if a mom has chronic pain, if she treats that with Tylenol, that can decrease her cortisol level. If a baby is seeing high cortisol throughout the pregnancy, that can lead to birth defects and problems with development. So it's not all or nothing. And I think that was my main concern with what was discussed yesterday.
Yeah, and I think because everything is now political now, right? I mean, some people see yesterday and they say, oh my goodness, Tylenol is the worst thing ever if I'm pregnant. And others will say, how dare you go after Tylenol when oftentimes, as is the case, the truth is somewhere in the middle, right?
Exactly.
And the point to me that I took out of yesterday is they're open to conversations about what has clearly been a major uptick in autism that can't just be, from my perspective, tied to, well, we're better able to identify it.
Exactly. There is a little piece of that. In studies that have looked at that, it's probably about 20% of the rise in autism cases is due to better identification and diagnosis. That leaves 80% that is due to something else. And that something else is a big group of things. And it's there are potential toxins that cause it. There are medications that cause it. There are things in our diet that cause it. There are things in a fetus, if mom has certain medical conditions that can lead to higher incidence of autism. I mean, there's a huge list of things. And it is not just better identification. There is something other than genetics that is causing this. Genetics do play a role because certain people do not metabolize things well, clear toxins as well. They don't do certain chemical processes or enzymatic processes in their body as well. And that can lead to developmental delays. But genetics in and of itself is not the cause. Genes do not change that fast.
Dr. Christine White, Freedom Pediatrics here in the Kansas City area, is joining us on KCMO. So do you think that in part this may be part of a full-blown conversation this administration wants to have? And some are going to perceive this as being anti-vax, but more just a conversation about vaccines, the spacing of vaccines, vaccines with children, what's necessary, what may not be necessary, how frequent these vaccines are given to little kids. Do you think that that's part of where this conversation goes and should go from here?
I do think it's part of that. I think it's sort of like the camel getting his nose under the tent. You start to talk about one thing that might be a little piece of the autism puzzle, and you start the conversation, and then you introduce something else, and people start to learn about that, and they start to ask more questions, and they start to learn and research, and not just take what they're told as the gospel truth. And so I do think that this was opening the door to a wider conversation about what are the other causes of autism, and the truth of it is there's not wonderful evidence out there because the money has not been used to really do wonderful, randomized, prospective, meaning looking forward, controlled trials for a lot of these things. And so I think what Kennedy wants to do is start the conversation, start doing studies where they look for what are the causes and not pull any punches. Like if there's information out there, let the public know about it. And so I think that this is definitely a way to start a wider conversation, yes.
And in the last couple of minutes here, then, if this is part of a wider conversation, you know and I know where many are going to portray this as going. This is crazy conspiracy, anti-vax driven drivel. That's where they're going to go. But to your point, the money hasn't been there on the other side to study a lot of this, right? I mean, the industry, I don't know, you were in the industry or you're in it, but you were part of a group and now you're on your own. The industry hasn't really wanted the information, or has the industry wanted the information, but those that basically pay the bills don't want to give them the information? Which one is it?
I think that if you really dig and you look for studies that show what are the causes of autism, you can find studies that maybe aren't the best laid out study, but you can find studies that do point to causes of autism. And I think that the people with the money do their very best to keep that data from coming to light and to portray it as fringe and to poke holes in it. For example, just last week in the Senate, there was a study that was completed in 2020 looking at 18,000 kids, 16,000 were vaccinated with one or more vaccine, 2,000 had no vaccines. And they just looked at what is the risk over a 16-year period of chronic disease, specific chronic diseases in the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated groups. That study was completed in 2020. It was never published. Senator Ron Johnson found out about it and brought it to a Senate committee, and it was publicly discussed. And there's a lot of questions about why was that not published. And I think there's a lot of people that would point to, well, if you publish that, you may not have your job. And the studies are there, the data is there. It just needs to come out. We do also need better data.
Yes. Dr. Christine White, Freedom Pediatrics, we have some of the audio from that Senate hearing. I will play it next hour. To your credit, you tipped me off to it, and I'm glad that you're on it. We appreciate you being here on KCMO.
Thank you so much.
Christine White on 95.7 FM, Freedom Pediatrics. Tirade Tuesday is next, 913-408-7957. Line up the phones. We'll get to that coming up.
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
Well, it's a rainy Tuesday morning across Kansas City, but that is not an excuse to get in right now. Line up those tirades. Let's do it.
It's time for Tirade Tuesday on 95.7 FM and 710 AM KCMO.
How dare you?
It's morning, so it's Mundo.
The phone number to get anything you want off your chest on a Tirade Tuesday is 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. Phones are open. John and Mark will take care of you on a Tirade Tuesday. Let's go on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM and streaming as always on the KCMO Talk Radio app. 913-408-7957. First up, Victor, Parkville. What's your tirade? Go.
Well, first thing, I'd like to say my friend and neighbor, Carl from Parkville, wanted to say thank you for your timely response to his email. And
I don't even know what you're talking about. So the audio, I don't even know what you're talking about.
He said he sent you an email and you responded promptly to it.
Oh, did I not respond? Did I not respond to one of your emails?
No. He resigned at Carlton from Parkville.
Okay. So one of your neighbors is thanking me through you for responding to an email of his.
Yes, another person from Parkville.
Wow. Okay, I understand now. Okay, you're big time now. You're big time now.
No. More people are listening to you than you think.
Well, that's exactly right. Oh, trust me, we see the ratings. We're doing very well. Yeah. All right, now what's your tirade, Victor? Let's not derail things.
There you go. My tirade is about all these people now, especially because this whole, Charlie Kirk and he's hated and all this hatred spewing and blah, blah, blah. All this words are violence, people. Okay? Is this the road you really want to go down? Because in England, there's a person who was arrested and jailed for saying, I like bacon, because it offended the Muslims. Okay? If we were nearly as Nazi fascist as you all think we are on the right, all you people on the left would be in prison by now because you're all spewing hatred. We're not the fascists. We're all about free speech. We're all about say what you want. We're the compassionate ones. You're the hateful ones. We're celebrating life. You're celebrating death. Just think about that for a while.
All right. Thank you very much there, Victor in Parkville on KCMO. 913-408-7957. Tirade Tuesday. Darren, Independence, what's your tirade?
The Chiefs offense. They got the coach from the Chicago Bears. I grew up in Illinois, still liked my Bears. He was terrible in Chicago. Why they brought him back, who knows? Bieniemy left. The offense is so predictable, so uncreative. I'm tired of hearing they don't have receivers. Make something happen. Be creative. They do the same 6 plays every game. Fire the offensive coordinator and watch things change.
All right, Darren, there you go, my man. Although if you fire Matt Nagy, what happens to his kid? I saw you had a good punt return for KU the other day, so that would be kind of awkward. But anyway, point well taken. Listen, the offense has stunk for 2+ years now. Let's be honest. It's been the defense.
And everybody can complain, but they covered. They covered last week for the first time in a while.
All right, Mark. They still look like total junk for the most part.
That's fine. You win by double digits. It's still good.
I know. Against the Giants, stop, okay? 913-408-7957. Tirade Tuesday. Cooper in Blue Springs, what's your tirade?
Traffic. I-70. People need to learn how to drive and not slam on their brakes in this rain.
Thank you. Thank you, Cooper. Thank you. Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay. 913-408-7957. Kate in Kansas City. Hey, Kate, what's your tirade?
Robin from Minneapolis, with only a bird's name, must have a bird brain. It must have been a low turnout election for her. Thank you.
Thank you very much there. We appreciate that. Next up, Ed in Lansing. What's your tirade? Go.
Lazy shoppers, people who put stuff in their carts, wander around the store, and then decide to hide steaks in the cereal aisle and various other items that they change their minds on instead of putting them back. Don't they understand that raises everybody's prices when they ruin good food?
That's an excellent point. That's a loss for the grocery store, and that just gets passed on to the customer. Well done. Thanks so much, Ed. We have not had a Tirade Tuesday on that issue in grocery stores. I like that. That's well done. Dennis in Bonner Springs, go.
Hey, Pete. My tirade is radio stations that you listen to, and when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you decide, hey, I'm going to listen to my morning radio station. So you download the app that's on their site, and after you download it on your phone, the first thing the app asks is permission to manage your phone calls. Maybe I'm old and don't understand what that means, but I had no need for that. And I just think the radio station that I listen to in the morning should have an app that doesn't want to manage my phone calls for me.
Well, I don't think anyone's trying to manage your phone calls, Dennis. I think you might be misreading. Maybe there's locational things that they want to track, but every app on your phone tracks, if you allow it to, track locations. So I would hit no on all that stuff. I don't care if it's our app or anyone else's app. I would hit no on that. But just know we're part of a, big corporation here, and that's way above my pay grade.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, Dennis in Bonner Springs. Let's go to Jeff in Blue Springs. What's your tirade, Jeff?
Hey, good morning there, Pete. My tirade's with Little League sports and parents. When you sign your kid up for a Little League sport, let the coaches take care of the kids on the team. If you have a problem with something going on, address it to the coach. Don't take it upon yourself to address it with the kid that's playing a Little League sport, because that kid has no idea who you are and has no idea what you are talking about. Stay out of it. You signed your kids up to play a sport, and let the kids deal with the coaches. If you want to coach, sign up and volunteer your time.
There you go. All right. There you go, Jeff. Fired up. Little League Sports. Next up on KCMO Tirade Tuesday, let's go to Carl in Raytown. What do you got, Carl?
Hey, Pete. And what about that there wind project in Rhode Island? They shut down. It was 80% done. Trump administration.
All right.
Why'd they do that?
Are you so the tirade is against the Trump administration for blocking a wind farm in Rhode Island?
Well, yeah, of course. It was 80% done. Why would they do that?
I don't know. I don't really know anything about the story, to be honest.
Really?
No, I don't really. I mean, the wind farms in Rhode Island are not usually high on my to-do list every morning.
My bad. I had Rhode Island this week.
Okay. Sorry, John. Thank you.
All right, John. Thanks for being there for Carl.
All right. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that, my man, very much. Thank you. I mean, maybe because wind farms are one big sham. I don't know. I mean, anyone care about the birds and the fish anymore? I thought that was a big thing that the environmentalist crowd cared about.
We have some in Kansas. So I'd look at those before Rhode Island, I guess.
I might too. Okay. All right. Libby, Waldo, what's your tirade? Go.
Okay. Well, I don't care about the the windmills in Kansas. They're not even running half the time. But anyway, here's my tirade.
That is true.
I hate it when I hear a radio station. For example, 9/11. I have been hearing for years the exact numbers who were killed in 9/11. Why do radio stations at large or newspapers at large always bumps that number up to 3,000 or more?
I don't know. What is it? It's like 2,900 and change. I mean, I'm not trying to be.
No, yeah, I know. It's 2,000. I have a thing for numbers. I guess, working where I work, I have a thing for numbers. But anyway, it was 2,977. I believe that's the correct number. But I'm always wondering about that with the news. I mean, I enjoy hearing the news, but I always wonder why do they exaggerate?
What about this? If that's the number, you know that people have also died in the wake of that. First responders dealing with health effects, toxic conditions. The number is probably now over 3,000.
Think so?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Firefighters and people who are exposed to all that stuff in downtown Manhattan. Yeah. That number's got to be over 3,000 now.
Oh, I thought that those. Okay, I might be wrong, but I thought the numbers included the fire people and the rescuers. And
no,
everything.
I think the 2,900 number that you reference is those who died that day. Because that number hasn't changed. We've used that number for 25 years now. But when you factor in people who have passed after the fact from some of the exposures, I think we're over 3,000.
Okay, you're talking about after the effect, the people that have died as a result of that. Okay. So I wasn't thinking like that. I was thinking about the actual numbers that I keep hearing. So no, good point. Thanks for correcting me, Pete.
Well, listen, I'm not trying to correct anybody here. I'm just trying to give you, maybe a different perspective on this.
I would say, like today, the Royals play in L.A. They're out in Anaheim. The game starts at 8:38, and that sounds weird to say on the radio because they're typically 40 or 45. So you round up on times just to make it easier for the listener to hear, because you start throwing 2,900, 107. People are playing lottery numbers then all of a sudden. So rounding up is a thing. It's when they start saying more than this or more than that you might want to question, more people died than Vietnam and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Michael in Olathe, what's your tirade? Go.
Hey, good morning, Pete. My tirade is on how the city of Olathe charges me for my water usage, and they do it on blocks. So they have a block first block is a set amount, second block is a higher amount, and the third block is an even higher amount. And my understanding from speaking with them is they base it on a customer. So it could be a one-bedroom apartment customer. And I get hosed every month. I have 4 kids under 9. So we go through a lot of water. In the summertime sprinkler system, it jumps up even more. So it frustrates me they don't just say, here's your usage, here's the cost. Instead, they say you're penalized because you're using more, therefore you have to pay a lot more per block.
So take me through this again. You have to pay more because you're already using more to begin with, so there's basically a surcharge on the fact that you're using more?
That's right. Each month I'm automatically, just by default, in the second block. I've never been in block 1. And your bill is itemized. It will tell you water usage block 1, 2, and 3. And I'm looking at mine, and block 3 for me, it's easy over 30% more, easily. So,
wow.
And it's just because of the water we use. And I don't know how they can change it, really. I don't know, but it's frustrating because every month I'm paying more because the average person, which could be, again, a single person in an apartment, it could be an elderly person, they're using less, but because I use more, I have to pay more per usage.
So they're punishing you for having 4 kids under 9. That's basically what they're doing.
That's it. Yeah. And, they called it, and at one point they told me it was a luxury I had a sprinkler system. And I said, no, it's not. Whether I have a sprinkler system or I water the lawn on my own with a hose, like Cousin Eddie style, right?
How about some bum bureaucrat telling you that it's a luxury to have a sprinkler system? Hey, chump, it's a luxury for you to have a job on my dime, okay? How about that?
Yeah, I agree. It's just I hate paying more every month. I don't mind paying for what I use, but I feel like every month I just get hosed just because of the fact that I'm trying to have it. My kids are bathing, brushing their teeth, we're eating, laundry, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, you could just have really dirty kids and send them to school every day like that, right? I mean, that's just unbelievable. All right, there you go. Thanks so much there, Michael in Olathe on KCMO Talk Radio. Good tirade. Appreciate you guys being here. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We're streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. One of my favorite shows growing up took a dig unnecessarily at a sports figure over politics. I don't know why. We have the audio next.
Hey, it's Kevin Kietzman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Did you hear what Michael Wilbon said yesterday? The co-host of Pardon the Interruption on ESPN, a long-running show that brings me back to my youth. I loved PTI as a kid. And it's still on. Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser are doing their thing. I think it's, 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central on ESPN. I haven't watched it in forever, but it was a great show in its heyday. It's still the same show that it basically was 25 years ago. It does pretty well for ESPN, and these two guys are obviously staples on that network. But yesterday it was announced that Auburn basketball coach Bruce Pearl is retiring, and he's handing the job to his son. Now, Bruce Pearl has become more political in recent years. He's been a staunch supporter of Israel as a Jewish American. And he also, as a result, has leaned into some of the political cultural wars, and he has obviously leaned into his conservative traditional values. And apparently, that was not good for Michael Wilbon, who said this yesterday on PTI.
Happy trails to coaching for Bruce Pearl. The Auburn coach is stepping down to become an ambassador for the athletic department. In his place, the school gave a 5-year deal to his son, Stephen. Pearl is 65. He has had terrific teams at Milwaukee, Tennessee, and Auburn, which made the Final Four last season and in 2019. His decision comes about a year after Tony Bennett did the same thing at UVA. Pearl said he will not run for the U.S. Senate, something that had been rumored.
Tony, he become a divisive person, it seems to me, intentionally, and I hope there was pressure to just get him out.
Really?
Yeah,
I always liked him. He was such a great guest. Yeah, we're on the other side on him.
A divisive person intentionally? Michael Wilbon saying that about Bruce Pearl, the Auburn basketball coach, used to be at Tennessee prior to that, because he spoke out vehemently on behalf of Israel over the last couple of years in the wake of October 7th. A divisive personality. Boy, let's check in and see what a guy like Michael Wilbon had to say.
Receipts, as the kids say.
We got a receipt here for you.
Cool.
Here is Michael Wilbon back in the summer of love, 2020, when he said, Colin Kaepernick looks pretty good right now because he got it right. He also posted on X at the time, formerly Twitter, I hope many more players take a knee when the NFL resumes. I guess that only cuts one way, huh? When it comes to Mike Wilbon and what he calls divisive political speech, speaking out and supporting Israel after the attack by Hamas as a proud American Jew is divisive political speech. Michael Wilbon saying he hoped the university pushed him out. I don't think Michael Wilbon's been the SEC country in a little bit, because I'm pretty confident that is not what happened here to Bruce Pearl. And I would not wish Michael Wilbon to be pushed out, but that right there, that is divisive speech. Coming up next, a viral video from T-Mobile on Saturday night is getting a lot of attention, and now the local news is on it. Who's beating up who? We'll tell you next. Little Dire Straits coming back, 9:04. Good morning. Not exactly NBA Youngboy, who I never heard of until 5 minutes ago when this video popped up on my social media feed, and a few of you sent to me over the last 24 hours. And it's video captured from T-Mobile Center over the weekend. This was Sunday night. 13,000 people attend this NBA Youngboy show. And in now viral video that is up on our Facebook page, Pete Mundo on KCMO, and Mark, you can pop it on the KCMO page as well. And please make sure that you are looking at it, not around the kids, because the video shows an employee being pushed to the ground and punched repeatedly. Basically, it's one of those ushers in the aisles, and it's an older white man who's getting the snot kicked out of him by a young black kid. To the credit of Fox 4, they're covering the story, and others in local media will as well. There's also no doubt in my mind if this was a role reversal, if this was at a Kenny Chesney concert at Arrowhead, and you had role reversal going on here, Kansas City would be in flames right now. That's how disturbing this video is. It's gone viral on TikTok. It's been seen now on Facebook as well. And a spokesperson for T-Mobile described the incident as horrific, emphasized that violence of any kind is unacceptable at the venue. Concert attendees are seen in the video screaming and recording the incident with their phone. And that's the most disturbing part of all this. You just have people standing there with their phones as this old man's getting beat up by this kid in the aisles at T-Mobile on Sunday night at this NBA Youngboy concert. Put down your phones. Robert McDaniel's the guy who had the video. That's the one that I just shared on social media. He expressed concerns to Fox 4 about the emotional state of young people today. McDaniel said he has been mentoring youth for several years, and he noticed a trend. He said, I've been going to juvenile halls for years mentoring these kids. They've progressively gotten more and more emotional. What he means by that is violent. We have younger criminals in Kansas City than we've ever had. I mean, Sean Brady comes to mind. The chef in Brookside who was killed, and one of those kids was allegedly a juvenile. You think about the kids at the Super Bowl parade shooting. There were a couple of juveniles involved with that as well. The criminals are getting younger. And this NBA Youngboy concert situation is just one example of this. And, there's no point in me playing the video on the air because it's just a bunch of noise and people screaming and things like that. But what you see is this kid pummeling this old guy in the aisles at the concert on Sunday night. The city, Quentin Lucas should be putting out a statement on this. Authorities are still determining the next steps regarding the teenager's involvement.
No, brother.
I know. What are we going to do now? Protect them? Really? That's going to be the plan from authorities? Whether it's KCPD, whether it's the prosecutor's office, I know that they've got homicides to figure out in Jackson County. But anytime you get a story like this that gets this kind of attention and goes viral like this, you know what? Taking a stand and making a statement is important. Fox 4 chose not to air the video. That's what they put in their statement here on KCMO. But this is a terrible thing to have to look at. Now, what I also find interesting, and somebody just texted me here, NBA Youngboy gets his own holiday in Kansas City. Now, have you heard of this guy? I don't know who he is. I never heard of him.
I don't know.
All right. John, you don't even need to answer. I know the answer. The Baton Rouge rapper.
I'm down with Run DMC. That's about it, brother. Beastie Boys, maybe.
The Baton Rouge rapper now has an official day in Kansas City, honoring his influence both inside and outside of hip-hop. Reading this from a website here, on September 21st, city leaders recognized the 25-year-old artist with a proclamation naming the date NBA Youngboy Day. Boy, I thought it was the start of fall officially. Now it's the NBA Youngboy Day. Along with the announcement, he received a ceremonial key to the city presented by National Criminal Justice Advocate Dante West, acting on behalf of Mayor Quentin Lucas. The surprise honor, the article writes, highlighted how far Youngboy's reach extends beyond his recording career. Okay, all right.
Nobody cares.
Does it say how many other people?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything specific?
No, I mean, I don't know.
I will say, fans' behavior is not necessarily a reflection on the artist's message. I will say that, at least.
Yeah, no, I'm not blaming the artist here.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I don't know anything about
It seems to be
him.
that he was honored for doing positive work, so if anything, the fan had the opposite reaction of what the guy's going for.
I don't know anything about the artist. I don't know anything about his lyrics. I mean, my guess is he's not talking about Jesus. He's not talking about, things that Phil Wickham and Brandon Lake and Chris Tomlin were talking and preaching about on Sunday at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. That's a total shot in the dark. I mean, I may be going out on a limb with that one. But something tells me Mark's not going to be singing NBA Youngboy at church this Sunday. Fair?
Yeah, and we won't be listening to it like Forrest Frank at our house.
Yeah, that is a total guess. I think it's an educated guess, but it's a total guess. I'm not going to sit here and blame the artist, though. What it does tell you is the kind of knuckleheads and thugs that sometimes will show up at places like this, and this appears to be an example of that here in Kansas City. And could you imagine what the Kansas City Star would be writing about today if the shoe was on the other foot and this was, a Luke Bryan concert at T-Mobile Center right now, John?
I'm puzzled. Didn't the video taker suggest he's worked with youth?
Yes.
And it was a he?
Yes.
And he did nothing but video.
Well,
seemingly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he interceded and broke it up. But I'm like, dude, if you're working with youth, I would think you would be in a position to step forward and intercede.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
But this is an older person. I'm like, nobody did anything.
Ryan, you're on KCMO. What's up, Ryan?
Oh, not much, but maybe it might be a good turning point, so to speak, for this NBA young boy, or what the hell his name was, and maybe that criminal advocate to actually maybe give that key to the city to that guy that got his butt beat up, at that show. Maybe that might be a good turning point, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it would be nice for NBA Youngboy to do something here and acknowledge this, and
or
who
just
knows?
say something at least.
What's that?
Well, yeah, I mean, just say something at least.
Yeah. I mean, I will look at his social media. Maybe there's something up. Something tells me there probably isn't. But then I also saw this about this rapper. So this is from this morning. The United Center in Chicago has abruptly canceled NBA Youngboy's concert days before he was set to take the stage. United Center announcing the cancellation this yesterday. Stories from this morning from Channel 5 in Chicago. They say here in a statement, the United Center has made the decision to cancel the NBA Youngboy show scheduled for Wednesday, September 24th, tomorrow in Chicago. If you purchased your ticket through Ticketmaster, refunds will be issued automatically. If you purchased from a third-party reseller, please reach out to your point of purchase. The cancellation comes after the United Center appeared to recently create a stricter bag policy for the show, saying that no bags would be permitted in size. For the NBA Youngboy show on September 24th, bags of all sizes, including clear bags, will not be permitted inside the venue. In an Instagram story, an account identified as NBA Youngboy's manager posted about the cancellation, calling out the venue, saying the United Center had turned off its comments on certain posts. Okay, you know what this is about, right? They don't trust the clientele in the arena to keep everybody safe. That's it. United Center does not believe they can keep the people inside the arena safe during this guy's concert, which tells you all you need to know about the people who are attending these concerts, including those at T-Mobile in Kansas City 2 nights ago, where this old usher gets the bejesus beat out of him, and everyone else is standing there and videotaping it and filming it and doing absolutely nothing about it, John.
Boy, this is a shame. Look at this. This is a shame.
Yep.
Do something.
I mean, I don't know if the United Center came to this conclusion in part because of what happened here in Kansas City or if they were already leaning this way. I don't know. But, man, that is a bad look for the artist, and it's a bad look for the people he is apparently appealing to. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Last hour we had on Dr. Christine White. She's with Freedom Pediatrics here in Kansas City. And we talked about Trump's announcement and the administration's announcement around around autism. And there was something else that Christine White and I talked about that got wildly overlooked. And it's where I think this conversation is going when it comes to Tylenol and autism. And it's bigger than just either of those two things. I'll explain it next on KCMO.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson Show, a stellar lineup for you. Kayleigh McEnany, our Fox News colleague, will be here. The great Douglas Murray will be here as well. Coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
So yesterday, the Trump administration held a press conference, and they announced that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration will notify doctors that the use of Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. That was the announcement from the administration. Now, what they made very clear is that this is not settled science, but there are studies that suggest there can be a direct link between the Tylenol usage, the level of Tylenol usage, and then potential autism in kids. That's what they announced yesterday. And this is something we talked to Dr. Christine White about last hour. If you missed that, it'll be up on the podcast after the show. But my only critique of yesterday is that Trump spoke too much. Leave this one to the doctors, right? Leave this one to Marty Makary. Trump's doing the right thing by opening up this conversation. We've seen autism rates skyrocket over the last 3 decades. And if you just sit there and say, well, I don't want to know why, this is just all natural, it's all organic. No, it's not. It's all just, we're just diagnosing it better. No, Christine White said that's only about 20% of cases. There's still 80% of cases that we don't have a rhyme or reason for. So I suggest that you go back and listen to the interview. It will be up on the podcast after the show. But Trump's got to leave this one to the experts, all right? Leave this one to guys like Dr. Marty Makary and leave it to RFK, and don't have Trump getting in there, because then Trump starts talking in generalities. The media latches onto the stuff that Trump says instead of stuff that the doctors say, because they want to do gotcha journalism with Trump, and then you lose the big picture of what's going on here. And what's going on here is something that we also talked to Christine White about. And that's the fact that there's a broader conversation to be had on autism, on some of the vaccine schedules that are out there, and it's got to happen now. I'm not going to sit here and play doctor, but I will listen to the doctors. And I will not blindly follow some doctor who, like yesterday, you saw this on local TV across Kansas City. You saw this on the national news, obviously, as well. They all got their marching orders. They found their doctors at the University of Kansas Health System and elsewhere, and they just beat the old drum, and they knocked the administration, and they said, this is dangerous, you can't do this. I mean, that's exactly what they did. This was Stephen Lauer yesterday on one of the local stations. I think this was Fox 4.
It puts a lot of guilt, or may put a lot of guilt, on families who have autistic kids, and sometimes it comes across as, this is what caused your kid's autism.
Okay, well, no one's trying to shame anybody. We're trying to get answers. Stop making it about people's emotions. We're just looking for answers here. Well, this might hurt somebody's feelings, so we can't do this. Who cares? That's not the point. Hurting somebody's feelings doesn't mean that you don't use the data and information and science that you have available to try to get answers to difficult questions. And that guy, Stephen Lauer, is with the University of Kansas Medical Center. Pediatrician over there. Sure, he's a good pediatrician, but that is all emotional. That's got nothing to do with the bigger picture here. So the bigger picture is something that happened in a Senate hearing a couple of weeks ago, and this got totally overlooked. And Christine White, to her credit, shared this with me, but it didn't get any real national or local media attention. And it was a Senate hearing that I want to play some audio from, and a testimony by a guy named Aaron Seery. And Aaron Seery testified in front of the U.S. Senate on how the CDC back in 2020 got data about vaccines, and they did not publish that data because it didn't fit the narrative. Take a listen.
This study was based on actual medical records, meaning finally a large vaccinated versus unvaccinated study using health data from a major United States health institution, something, as the IOM pointed out, never existed before. The study began by explaining it set out to reduce vaccine hesitancy by assuring parents the CDC vaccine schedule is safe. Instead, what these researchers found was that vaccinated children had 4.29 times the rate of asthma 3.03 times the rate of atopic disease, 5.96 times the rate of autoimmune disease, and 5.53 times the rate of neurodevelopmental disorders, which included 3.28 times the rate of developmental delay and 4.47 times the rate of speech disorder. All of these findings were statistically significant. There was also other conditions for which there were numerous cases in the vaccinated group, but zero in the unvaccinated group. Hence, a rate cannot be calculated, including brain dysfunction, ADHD, learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and tics. For example, there were 262 cases of ADHD in the vaccinated group, and there were none in the unvaccinated group. In this study, there were around 16,000 kids in the vaccinated group, by the way, and around 2,000 in the unvaccinated group. So the rate, of course, between those is important, and that's what the study compared.
Think about that. This research was done in 2020. It never got released. I am pro medical development. I think that we've got incredible modern medicine in this country, but it doesn't mean you can't question it. It doesn't mean you can't have an honest conversation on what's good and what's not good for our kids when you're putting dozens of more vaccines into them at a very early age than you were just a few decades ago. And some of these problems, asthma, autism, ADHD, are continuing to skyrocket. You heard him say there, we had 262 kids with ADHD in the vaccinated group, 0 in the non. That's data. That's science. And that science was suppressed and not released a few years ago because it didn't fit the narrative. Those are the conversations we have to have more frequently. Science is never settled. It is always evolving. And that is the moral of the story. Our caller of the day and more is next.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
It is 9:35. Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, coming up at 10 on KCMO Talk Radio. So before we get to our caller of the day, if you missed it, Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air tonight.
Nobody cares.
And he will be doing his show in front of a shrinking audience. That's in part because Sinclair Broadcasting is saying they're not going to air Jimmy Kimmel, despite his return to the network. So Sinclair Broadcasting owns about 36 ABC affiliates around the country. And they're not putting them back on. They do not own any stations here in Kansas City. The local ABC affiliate is owned by Hearst. So this does not really impact Kansas City. I mean, I guess if you want to watch Jimmy tonight, Mark, you'll have to watch for all of us tonight, okay?
I'll watch the intro at least.
All right. You watch the intro because you got a parlay cooking up here. I'm going to have you tee up in a second. All right. So you'll have to watch Jimmy for the parlay bet that you're about to make here. But Sinclair is saying, no, we are not putting Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. They're not doing it. But the takeaway here is that Jimmy Kimmel was never threatened or suspended by the administration. Disney put out a statement yesterday putting that to rest, saying that he was suspended by us. We made the decision, per their statement, to suspend production to avoid further inflaming a tense situation. In fact, they bailed Jimmy out. They wrote here in their statement, it's a decision that we made because we felt some of the comments by Jimmy were ill-timed and thus insensitive. No, they weren't ill-timed. They were factually inaccurate. He was not telling the truth when he said this.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That was a total mischaracterization of what was going on. It was a lie. So even in the statement, Disney basically gave Jimmy the benefit of the doubt. And then they say, we spent the last few days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we have reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday, being tonight. So this was not about threats from the FCC. This was not about Trump trying to cancel Jimmy Kimmel. Heck, Trump was getting wined and dined by the king and queen in England last week when this was going on. This was a decision made by Walt Disney Company. And for all the people screaming about, fascist this, fascist that, no, it actually turns out a private company made a decision, and now they have reversed that decision. And I don't much care either way. I mean, Kimmel's not getting a lot of viewers. He'll get a bump tonight because people will be intrigued by what he says, but that'll be it. Then he'll be back to business as usual with shrinking ratings. That's what's going to happen at Jimmy Kimmel. So now you look at this and you say, well, where does it go from here? Where it goes from here is Jimmy Kimmel's contract being up early next year. $15 million a year is what he's making, and probably try to get some deal from Netflix or something else. That would be my prediction on where Jimmy Kimmel ends up. I think his days with ABC are numbered. I think he knows that. I think both sides understand that now. If Sinclair's not going to put him back on the air, then forget it. And if Nexstar, which hasn't made any decision yet, they own a bunch of TV stations around the country too, including Fox 4 here in Kansas City. If they also say that we're not airing Kimmel, then ABC is in an impossible spot. They do own some of their own stations, but not enough. You need Nexstar. You need Sinclair to be on board. And if they're not on board, then it's game over. So this conversation this morning led to our caller of the day on KCMO.
It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on KCMO Talk Radio. Now on FM at 95.7.
Frank's in Overland Park. Frank, knock some sense into me here.
I don't know, Pete. I'm sitting here, I invest people's money for a living. I'm going, what about the shareholders? What about the shareholders? Is anyone paying attention to what Disney stock is doing? It's down right now. It's 40% down from, I believe, 3 years ago, three and a half years ago, something like that. That's a big drop. Now, Sinclair stock is down also, but it's been running along at about the same pace for the last 3 years at about its same price. So my question to Disney shareholders is, when are you guys going to get after the board of directors of Disney and say enough is enough?
It's a good question from Frank. Now, listen, all media stocks have had their ups and downs over the last few years due to just the fractured media environment that we find ourselves in. But he's right. At what point do you say what's in the best interest of our shareholders? And is not just Jimmy Kimmel at $15 million a year, but you've also got an entire staff. Like Colbert was losing $40 million a year. The show can't go on. Unlike Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street, the show cannot go on at $40 million losses per year. You just can't justify it at some point. And we'll see if ABC gets there, but the pressure may be coming real fast from places like Sinclair and Nexstar. All right, so there are betting odds as to what Jimmy Kimmel is going to say, do, and wear tonight. Mark, I asked you to cook something up very early this morning. 3 hours later, here we are. What do you got for me tonight, my man?
Yes, I've got 5 picks, my favorite 5 from the list, and it's $10 to win $103. So we'll start there.
10 to win $103. This is a parlay for Jimmy Kimmel going into tonight's broadcast. All right, my man. What's on the rundown?
All right, we're going to start out with a minus 200 bet. This is, will Jimmy apologize to the Kirk family? I'm saying yes.
You are saying yes. Okay. I agree with that. I think you're on to something with that one.
All right.
All right. What's next?
Second one, will Jimmy donate to Turning Point? I'm going to say no on that one.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's not going to donate to Turning Point. All right, so you've got a yes and a no on Jimmy apologizing and then not donating to Turning Point. What's next?
I've got, will Jimmy make a Trump joke? Oh, absolutely, especially at minus 120.
Yeah, Jimmy will make a Trump joke. I'm with you there. He will. Okay, what's next?
Will Jimmy say Republican or MAGA first? Shockingly, MAGA at plus 120. I'm taking MAGA on that one.
Yep. I agree with you there too, man. I think that he will do that because that is a swipe at the other side. Whatever apology Jimmy Kimmel gives tonight is forced on him. Let's be clear. He doesn't want to do this. He's being forced to do this. So he will drop a MAGA before he drops a Republican, because MAGA is a much more scary word than Republican. So I'm with you there. At plus 120, that's a good bet, too.
And even if he's going to say Republican, usually he'll say MAGA Republican. He'll kind of like throw it together.
Yeah, that's a good point. So MAGA would come first.
Value there.
Yeah, that is good value. You really thought this through, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
All right, what's next?
Final one. Will Jimmy apologize to Disney, ABC? I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, it'll be totally half-assed, but yes, he will have some kind of quasi-apology, and you will be able to hear the sarcasm. You will hear the fact that he is not going to be genuine in this approach, in this apology, but he will say the words. I agree with you on that. He will say the words. He will apologize to ABC Disney. He will apologize to the Kirk family. It will not be genuine, but you know what? He just has to say it, to your point there. So that's a good parlay, Mark. That's 10 to win $103. And I like it, John.
I'm more cynical than all you all here, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to apologize. I think he's going down for the Flames there to be the Hollywood hero.
Oh, gosh. I think he'll do it,
but he's going to
get
get forced with the corporate one then.
I think he's going to get forced, but it will be very evident that it's not genuine.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you there.
So he will say the words he needs to say while having a little twinkle in his eye that everyone knows he's full of it. That's what I see happening. All right, that's a good parlay there, Mark. Nice job.
Thank you.
All right, 913-4087-957. The President of the United States is addressing the UN General Assembly. Anything good that comes out of that, we'll get to here on KCMO. That's where Tim wants to go up in the Northland. Tim, what's going on?
I had to leave for work. Trump was doing such an excellent job. He was raking the nations over the coals like you couldn't believe. He was telling them exactly how stupid and dumbass they were for buying energy from Russia to support a war, and they're all scared of Russia. He was telling them that your prisons are half full or more. In one country, I think it was Switzerland, 72% of the prisoners are illegal immigrants. And he was telling them how stupid they are for that. Oh, my gosh. There's so many highlights. You're going to have to play the whole thing tomorrow for your show. It's just one of the colossal crushes of the United Nations you'll ever see.
We'll see, man. I mean, he's speaking right now. Trump's always best when you just play the highlights back or the lowlights. There's always a couple of those too. So we'll wait for those to come out. But I see him speaking right now, and there's no doubt in my mind he's given these nations the business. And he should. He's right to give them the business. He's right. I mean, they're freeloaders. They buy Russian oil because they've gone totally green in places like Germany. And then they're trying to help Ukraine win a war, rightfully so, while they fund the enemy indirectly through buying oil, when then they say we got to help Ukraine win. It just doesn't make any sense. And yes, they're a mess on immigration as well. So that's tremendous work. Let me just dip into this for a second. Mark, could you pop up Fox News for me here? Let's see what's going on with Trump.
And you can do it properly. But they went back to where they were, and they opened up a lot of different plants, energy producing plants, and they're doing well. I give Germany a lot of credit for that. They've said this is a disaster, what's happening. They were going all green. All green is all bankrupt. That's what it represents. And it's not politically correct. I'll be very badly criticized for saying it, but I'm here to tell the truth. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm in New York City. I'm feeling a lot safer. Crime, we're getting crime down. And by the way, speaking of crime, Washington, D.C.
Here we go.
Was the crime capital of America. Now it's after 12 days, it's a totally safe city. Everyone's going out to dinner. They're going out to restaurants. Your wife can walk down the middle of the street with or without you. Nothing's going to happen. My people have done a fantastic job, and yes, I called in the National Guard, and the National Guard took care of business, and they weren't politically correct, but they took care of business. We got 1,700 career criminals out, brought them back to where they came from, the countries where they came from, or put them in jails. Washington, D.C. is now a totally safe city again, and I welcome you to come. In fact, we'll have dinner together at a local restaurant. And we'll be able to walk. We don't have to go by an armor-plated vehicle. We'll walk right over there from the White House. They've given up their powerful edge, a lot of the countries that we're talking about, in oil and gas, such as essentially closing the great North Sea oil. Oh, the North Sea.
What happened?
Our new computer says, I haven't touched the remote long enough.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. They put a new system into this place, and things get better, but other things get worse. It's like, oh, jeez, what? All right, go ahead.
Capital of Europe, and there's tremendous oil that hasn't been found in the North Sea. Tremendous oil, and I was with the Prime Minister I respect and like a lot, and I said, you're sitting with the greatest asset. They essentially closed it by making it so highly taxed that no developer, no oil company can go there. They have tremendous oil left. And more importantly, they have tremendous oil that hasn't even been found yet. And what a tremendous asset for the United Kingdom. And I hope the Prime Minister is listening, because I told it to him 3 days in a row. That's all he heard. North Sea oil, North Sea, because I want to see them do well. I want to stop seeing them ruining that beautiful Scottish and English countryside with windmills and massive solar panels that go 7 miles by 7 miles, taking away farmland.
Yes!
But we're not letting this happen in America. In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible, as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening. You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler, so now they could just call it climate change because that way they can't miss
Let's
climate
go.
change.
All right.
Because if it goes
That is great. He has just beaten the bejesus out of these guys at the UN.
It goes back and forth, cold, hot. Either way. We're still here.
He's killing them. He's doing it in a very Trumpian way with a twinkle in his eye, but he is killing these guys, mostly the Europeans. And they deserve it. They deserve it. They have done this to themselves. And he's right. Drill, baby, drill in the North Sea. Stop with the Russian nonsense. Stop ruining your countryside with solar farms and wind turbines. Good. Man, this is tremendous.
If your wife is walking down the middle of the street in D.C., though, make sure she looks both ways before she crosses.
He used that line. He's been using that line for the last couple of weeks. I think he used it at Charlie Kirk's memorial. I'm like, can we leave the D.C. wife going out to dinner thing, for something else, please? I mean, jeez. Oh, wow. That's awesome work. Awesome work. We'll put a bow on the show before Kietzman Uncanceled coming up at 10.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
All right. Trump is still speaking at the UN. Mark, I'm just going to end the show. I know I don't have much time with this clip I just put in there at 9:47. This has got to be the line of the morning from the President of the United States. We'll wrap up the show with this tremendous line from President Trump as he gives his address to the UN General Assembly. You ready there, Mark? Let's roll it.
United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Kevin Kietzman is next.